Right now, in the hush between one breath and the next, something extraordinary is happening inside you. Not in the way of thunder or lightning, nothing loud, nothing urgent, but in the quiet, patient language of dreams. Perhaps you've felt it already tonight. That soft dissolve, that gentle slip from the shore of waking into the deeper waters of sleep. And in that slip, a world begins to form. Not the world of clocks and chores and streetlights, but a world where gravity is suggestion. Time is fluid, and your grandmother is alive again, smiling in a kitchen that hasn't existed for 20 years. Have you ever woken with the echo of that kitchen still warm in your chest? With the scent of bread or rain or old books lingering long after your eyes opened? It felt real. Not like real. And that's the quiet question that hums beneath the surface of every dream. What if your dreams are real somewhere? Not in the way we usually mean real, not measurable with rulers or captured on film, but real in the way that love is real, or grief, or the memory of sunlight on your skin when you were 7 years old. Real in the way that changes you. Real in the way that lingers. Think of the last dream you remember. Maybe it was flying. Not the mechanical kind in airplanes, but the kind where your body knew, without instruction, how to rise. Or maybe you were walking through a city made entirely of glass, where every building chimed softly in the wind. Or perhaps you were simply sitting at a table with someone you haven't spoken to in years, and the conversation felt so natural, so full of unspoken understanding that when you woke, you reached for your phone before remembering. In that moment, the dream wasn't a mistake. It wasn't static or noise. It was a place with texture, with weather, with emotional weather systems all its own. And you were there, not as a spectator, but as a participant, fully present. Fully feeling. So what if it was a place, not a hallucination? Not a glitch, but a somewhere, just as valid as this room, this bed, this breath, only accessed through a different door. A door that only opens when your eyes close and your body surrenders to the night. This isn't new thinking. For most of human history, people didn't assume dreams were meaningless. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods, delivered through the veil of sleep. The Greeks built temples where the sick would sleep, hoping to receive healing visions from Asclepius, the god of medicine. Indigenous cultures across the Americas, Australia, and Africa have long held that dreams are journeys to ancestral realms, spirit worlds, or parallel layers of this very earth. In these traditions, a powerful dream isn't dismissed upon waking. It's honored, interpreted, sometimes acted upon. Even today, in the quiet corners of science, the question lingers. Not as dogma, but as possibility. Physicists exploring the nature of consciousness wonder whether the brain creates reality or merely tunes into it, like a radio dialing into different frequencies. If that's true, then perhaps waking life is just one station, and dreams another. Maybe the reason dreams feel so vivid, so emotionally coherent, is because they are experiences, just not in the space-time we navigate with our bodies. Maybe they happen in a dimension where emotion is geography, where memory is architecture, where time isn't a line but a spiral. You can walk in any direction. You've felt it. That moment in a dream, when you realize, with perfect clarity, something you've been blind to for years. Or when you meet a version of yourself who's wiser, kinder, less afraid, and you wake up carrying that wisdom like a seed in your pocket. Is that just your subconscious rearranging furniture? Or is it a visitation from another part of you, or another version of you, in another layer of reality? Consider this. Every night, for about 2 hours, your brain enters a state more electrically active than when you're reading this, or walking through a forest, or holding someone you love. Your visual cortex lights up as if you're watching a film. Your emotional centers surge with feeling. Your body, wisely, locks your muscles so you don't act out your inner drama. But your mind is traveling. And where does it go? We say nowhere. We say inside your head. But what if inside your head is a kind of doorway? What if the skull isn't a container, but a lens? And what if, in sleep, that lens focuses not on the world of objects, but on the world of meaning? Dreams don't follow the rules of physics, but they do follow the rules of story, of symbol, of emotional truth. In dreams, you might be chased by a shadow, but the shadow isn't the point. The fear is. Or you might find yourself in a house with endless rooms, and each room is a part of yourself you've forgotten. The dream isn't lying. It's speaking in a language older than words. And sometimes that language feels more honest than daylight. Maybe that's why children talk about their dreams with such certainty. I flew last night, they say. Not I dreamed I flew. Because to them, the distinction hasn't hardened yet. Reality is still porous, magic hasn't been edited out. They haven't been taught to distrust the inner world, but we were all children once. And deep down, we still know. You've had that dream, the one that stayed with you for days. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe it was simply a moment of pure, unburdened joy, running through a field of golden grass under a violet sky, laughing with someone whose face you can't recall, but whose presence felt like home. And when you woke, you didn't feel foolish. You felt touched, as if you'd brushed against something sacred. What if you had? What if, in that dream, you weren't just replaying memories or processing stress, but actually going somewhere, a place that exists in the same way that love exists, not in atoms, but in connection, not in meters, but in meaning. Modern science often treats dreams as byproducts, epiphenomena they call it, noise from a busy brain cleaning house. And yes, dreams do help consolidate memories, regulate emotions, rehearse threats, but could they be more than maintenance? Could they be exploration? Imagine the universe not as a single stage, but as an infinite library of realities, some nearly identical to ours, others wildly different. In this view, proposed by interpretations of quantum mechanics, every choice branches into a new world. Every possibility unfolds somewhere. And if consciousness can tune into one frequency, this one, why not others? Perhaps dreams are the moments when the signal shifts, when the static clears, and for a few precious minutes, you receive a broadcast from another shelf in the library, from another life, another version of you, living a different path, or from a realm where the rules are written in poetry instead of physics. You don't need to believe it to feel it. You only need to remember how it felt to stand on the shore of a dream sea, watching waves of silver light roll in, knowing that this place mattered. And maybe it did. Maybe every dream is a real event in a real place, just not one bound by the same laws as this one. Maybe the people you meet there are real too, not as physical bodies, but as consciousnesses, like yours, adrift in the same ocean of night. After all, what is real, but what affects us? A dream can change your life. A single vision can inspire an invention, a painting, a peace treaty. The double helix of DNA came to Watson in a dream-like flash of pattern recognition. Mary Shelley dreamed Frankenstein into being. Paul McCartney heard Yesterday in his sleep. Were those just lucky accidents? Or were they moments when the veil thinned and something from elsewhere slipped through? You don't have to decide tonight. You only need to hold the question gently, like a firefly in your cupped hands. Let it glow without crushing it. Let it be enough that the wonder exists, because wonder is its own kind of truth. And right now, as you listen, your mind is already softening towards sleep. The edges of your thoughts are blurring. The room is growing dimmer, not in light, but in attention. And somewhere, just beneath the surface of your awareness, a dream is beginning to form. A door is opening, and on the other side, what if it's real? What if it always has been? You don't need to answer. Just let the question float with you, like a leaf on a slow river. Let it carry you deeper, deeper into the night, deeper into the mystery. Because the most extraordinary thing isn't whether dreams are real somewhere. It's that you already know, in some quiet part of you, that they might be. And that knowing, that soft, unshakable sense is where the journey begins. The room is quiet now. Not empty, never empty, but quiet in the way only night can make a space. Moonlight slips through the window, not as a beam, but as a slow pour of silver, pooling on the floor like liquid mercury. It catches the edge of a book left open on the nightstand, glints off the curve of a water glass, traces the outline of your hand resting just outside the blanket. Outside, the world has lowered its voice. The distant hum of the city has softened to a murmur, like a lullaby half remembered. A breeze moves through the trees, not with purpose, but with patience, rustling leaves the way fingers might brush through someone's hair. You're lying still, but not frozen. Your body is sinking, not into the mattress, but into the rhythm of the night itself. Each breath rises and falls like a tide drawn by some ancient, unseen moon. Your shoulders have released their daytime weight. Your jaw, so often clenched against the world, has gone slack. Even your thoughts are slowing, not stopping, but drifting, like paper boats set adrift on a calm river, turning lazily in the current. And yet, inside you, an entire world is waking up. While your limbs rest, your mind begins to stir. Not with the sharp, linear urgency of daytime thinking. No lists, no deadlines, no calculations, but with something older, deeper, more fluid. It's as if, with the dimming of the lights, A different kind of vision begins to bloom behind your eyelids. Colors you don't have names for. Sounds that don't come from anywhere you know. Faces that feel familiar, though you've never met them in this life. This is the threshold. The liminal space between what is and what might be. And it's here, in this quiet room, that the question returns. Not as a shout, but as a whisper woven into the very air. What if your dreams are real somewhere? You don't need to chase it. You only need to notice how the room itself seems to lean into the possibility. The shadows in the corner aren't just absence of light. They're soft, breathing shapes. The creak of the house settling isn't just wood contracting in the cool air. It's the sound of the world exhaling. Even the silence has texture now, like velvet or deep water. Have you ever noticed that? How, in the deepest part of the night, the boundary between inside and outside begins to blur. The wind outside sounds like your breath. Your heartbeat echoes the slow pulse of the earth. And the darkness, oh the darkness, isn't empty. It's full of potential, full of presence. This room, this moment, is more than a place to sleep. It's a vessel, a sanctuary, a launch pad. Because while your body stays here, warm, safe, wrapped in cotton and quiet, your consciousness is already preparing to leave. Not in the way of death or departure, but in the way of exploration. Like a bird that nests in your chest during the day but spreads its wings at night, soaring into territories no map can chart. And where does it go? Well, let's look around. Imagine you're walking through a forest at night, not alone, but accompanied by the soft crunch of your own footsteps on damp earth. The air is cool, scented with pine and wet stone. Above, the canopy parts just enough to let through pinpricks of starlight. Cold, distant, yet somehow kind. You're not lost. You're following a path you can't see but somehow know. And then, without warning, the trees open into a clearing. In the center stands a lake, black as obsidian, perfectly still. You kneel at its edge, and in the reflection, you don't see your face. You see a city made of light, floating in the sky. That's not fantasy. That's a dream, and it happened to someone, maybe to you. Now imagine you're standing on a beach at 3 a.m. The sand is cool beneath your bare feet. The waves roll in with a rhythm so steady it feels like the planet's own breath. You look out at the horizon, where sea and sky melt into one indigo seam. And then, just below the surface, you see them. Shapes moving. Not fish, not ships, but figures. Humanoid, luminous, gliding through the water as if it were air. One turns towards you. You feel no fear, only recognition. As if you've met before, in another life, or another dream. That too is real, somewhere. The point isn't whether these places exist in our physical world. The point is that they exist to you, and in the language of experience, that is a kind of reality. Back in your room, the night deepens. The moon has shifted. The pool of light on the floor has moved an inch, as if time itself is tiptoeing. Your breathing has slowed further, 6 breaths per minute, maybe 5. Your heart rate has dropped. Your core temperature is falling, just slightly, in preparation for the long voyage ahead. And still, your brain is humming, not with anxiety, not with planning, but with anticipation. Like a musician tuning an instrument before a performance only they can hear. Neurons begin to fire in patterns that don't serve logic, but poetry. The amygdala, the seat of emotion, awakens like a night-blooming flower. The visual cortex, usually busy interpreting street signs and screens, now begins to paint with pure imagination. The hippocampus, your memory librarian, starts pulling files not for accuracy, but for feeling, mixing childhood summers with last week's conversation, your mother's voice with the sound of rain. All of this happens in silence. No fanfare, no announcement, just the quiet unfolding of an inner cosmos. And you, lying here so still, are the traveler. Maybe you'll visit a house you've never seen but instantly recognize as yours. Maybe you'll speak a language you don't know, yet understand perfectly. Maybe you'll fly, not with wings but with will, and in that moment, you won't question it. You'll simply be, in a way that feels more whole than waking life ever allows. Because in dreams, you're not fragmented. You're not employee, parent, worrier, planner. You're just you, unedited, unperformed, raw, and that wholeness, that sense of being fully present in a world that obeys the laws of your soul rather than physics, is what makes dreams feel so real. Now listen, do you hear that? The faint sigh of the wind against the window pane. The distant hoot of an owl calling to its kin across the valley. The almost imperceptible tick of the clock on the wall. Though maybe that's just your pulse. These sounds aren't interruptions. They're invitations, each one a thread connecting your outer world to your inner one. The wind outside mirrors the currents in your mind. The owl's call echoes the voice that speaks in symbols. Even the ticking, steady, relentless, is a reminder that time is passing. Yes, but also that you are here now, alive in this fragile, beautiful moment between waking and dreaming. And in this moment, anything is possible. Because the room around you isn't just wood and glass and fabric. It's a membrane, thin, permeable. And on the other side, worlds where lost loved ones wait with open arms, where oceans flow upward into the sky, where you can walk through walls because walls are only ideas, where time isn't a line but a spiral, and you can revisit your 5th birthday or glimpse your 80th year with equal ease. Are these places real in the way your bed is real? No, but are they true? Deeply achingly true? Yes, and maybe that's enough. Maybe reality isn't a single country with strict borders, but an archipelago, an endless chain of islands, each with its own climate, its own rules, its own beauty. And every night when you close your eyes, you set sail for one of them. You don't need a boat. You don't need a map. You only need to let go of the need to prove, to control, to understand. Because understanding isn't the point tonight. Wonder is. So let the room hold you. Let the night wrap around you like a second skin. Let the quiet do its work. And as you drift, remember this. The world outside may be sleeping, but the world inside you is just beginning to wake. And somewhere, perhaps in a valley lit by twin moons, or a library where books write themselves, or a shore where the waves sing your name, that other world is waiting for you, not as a fantasy, but as a home you've always known and only forgotten how to find. Now, breathe and let the journey begin. When you close your eyes at night, sleep doesn't arrive like a blackout curtain snapping shut. It comes like dusk, soft, gradual, full of color even as the light fades. And in that slow descent, something remarkable begins to unfold. Not noise, not chaos, but a quiet reordering, a gentle turning inward. As if your mind, tired of interpreting the world outside, decides to turn its attention to the world within. This is where dreaming begins. Not with a bang, but with a whisper, a shift in the air behind your eyelids, a softening of edges. Suddenly, the rules you've spent all day obeying, gravity, time, logic, begin to loosen their grip. And in that loosening, a new kind of reality takes shape. Think of it this way. During the day, your mind is a translator. It takes in light, sound, touch, and turns them into meaning. It filters, categorizes, prioritizes. It asks, is this safe, useful, familiar? But at night, the translator steps aside, and in its place rises a poet. Dreams are not random firings of a tired brain. They are stories your mind tells itself when no one is watching. Not to entertain exactly, but to explore, to feel, to remember what it's like to be whole. You've felt it. That moment in a dream when you're standing on a hilltop under a sky painted in colors that don't exist in waking life. And you feel a joy so pure, it brings tears to your sleeping eyes. Or when you're walking through a hallway that keeps extending, door after door appearing as if the house itself is growing around you. And instead of fear, you feel curiosity, wonder, even peace. These aren't glitches, they're glimpses. Glimpses into a mode of being where emotion isn't secondary to fact. It is the fact. Where a feeling of safety can manifest as a warm cottage in a snowstorm. Where unresolved grief might appear as a locked box floating in a river. Where love isn't described. It's a garden that blooms the moment you step into it. Dreams speak in symbols, yes, but not the cold, coded kind you might find in a textbook. They speak in living symbols, symbols that breathe, that change shape, that respond to your presence. A wolf in a dream isn't danger or instinct in the abstract. It's a presence that watches you with golden eyes, and whether it follows you or walks beside you depends entirely on what your soul needs to know. And that's the first layer of understanding. Dreams are not about what happened. They're about what matters. They don't replay your day like a video. They distill it. They take the emotional essence, the unspoken tension in a conversation, the quiet pride in a small accomplishment, the ache of something left unsaid, and weave it into a landscape only you can navigate. Maybe you had an argument with someone you care about. In waking life, it's tangled in words and tone and history. But in your dream, it might appear as two trees whose branches are slowly growing apart, their roots still intertwined beneath the soil. You don't analyze the trees. You feel them, the sadness of separation, the stubborn hope of connection. And when you wake, you don't remember the metaphor, you remember the feeling. And that feeling guides you toward reconciliation, or clarity, or release. This is why dreams feel so real, because they're not depicting events, they're embodying truths, and they do it with astonishing creativity. Your dreaming mind can build entire cities in seconds. Cities with architecture that defies physics, streets that curve into memory, skies that shift color with your mood. It can summon people you haven't thought of in decades, give them voices, gestures, wisdom they never had in life. It can place you in a classroom where the lesson is written in starlight, or on a train that travels not through space, but through time. None of this is made up in the way we usually mean. It's composed, like music. Notes drawn from the symphony of your life, rearranged into something new, something that resonates deeper than words ever could. Even the absurdity of dreams, the talking cats, the flying cars, the sudden appearance of your high school gym in the middle of a desert, serves a purpose. Absurdity is the mind's way of saying, pay attention. This isn't literal, look beneath the surface. It's a gentle nudge, a playful wink, reminding you that the dream isn't about the cat. It's about what the cat represents: independence, mystery, the part of you that refuses to be tamed. And sometimes dreams aren't symbolic at all. Sometimes they're simply visits. You've had those, haven't you? The dreams where you're with someone who's passed on, and the conversation is so ordinary, so full of love, that when you wake, you don't feel sad. You feel visited, held, as if, for a few precious minutes, the veil between worlds grew thin enough to step through. In those moments, the dream doesn't feel like a story. It feels like a reunion, and who's to say it wasn't? Because here's the quiet truth. Your dreaming mind doesn't distinguish between real and imagined the way your waking mind does. To it, all experience is valid, all feeling is data, all connection is real. So when you dream of flying, you're not pretending. You're remembering what it feels like to be unbound. When you dream of falling, you're not panicking, you're surrendering. When you dream of being lost, you're not failing, you're searching. And when you dream of a place you've never seen, but instantly recognize as home, maybe you're remembering a part of yourself that lives beyond this life, beyond this body, beyond this single narrow slice of reality. That's the first layer. Not explanation, but invitation. An invitation to stop asking, what does this mean? And start asking, how does this feel? Because dreams aren't puzzles to be solved. They're landscapes to be walked through, gardens to be tended, rivers to be followed to their source. They don't need to be true in the way a photograph is true. They need to be true in the way a lullaby is true, carrying comfort, memory, love in their melody. And just as a lullaby can calm a child without saying a single logical thing, a dream can heal you without making sense. You don't need to understand why the ocean in your dream was made of glass, or why your childhood dog could speak in riddles. You only need to remember how it felt to stand on that shore, how the light fractured into rainbows, how the silence was so deep it felt like prayer. That feeling, that quiet awe, is the dream's gift, and it's real. Not because it happened in the physical world, but because it happened to you. And it changed you, however slightly. Maybe you woke up kinder, more patient, more willing to forgive. Maybe you saw a problem from a new angle. Maybe you simply felt less alone. That's the power of the first layer. It reminds you that reality isn't just what you can touch. It's also what you can feel, what you can imagine, what you can love. And in the quiet theatre of night, your mind becomes both playwright and audience, crafting stories not to escape the world, but to understand it more deeply. So the next time you drift into sleep, don't brace for nonsense. Open yourself to poetry, because behind your closed eyes, a world is waiting. One built not of atoms, but of meaning, and you are already part of it. Beneath the quiet surface of your sleeping body, a silent symphony is tuning itself. Not with violins or cellos, but with neurons, neurotransmitters, and waves of electricity so delicate they ripple like moonlight on water. This is the hidden mechanism of dreaming, the quiet architecture that builds entire worlds while you lie still in the dark. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand your attention. It simply unfolds, night after night, with the patience of tides and the precision of starlight. It begins in the brainstem, the oldest part of your brain, nestled where your spine meets your skull, shaped like a curled seed. Here in the pause, a quiet switch flips, not with a click, but with a slow chemical sigh. Acetylcholine, a messenger as ancient as life itself, begins to rise. It flows upward like a gentle tide, flooding the higher regions of your brain, not to wake them, but to awaken them in a different way. As this tide rises, another recedes. Serotonin, norepinephrine, the chemicals of focus, vigilance, control, fade into the background. The parts of your brain that spend the day saying no, wait, be careful, they soften, they step back. And in their absence, something extraordinary happens. The emotional heart of your mind, the amygdala, begins to glow, not with fear, not with alarm, but with pure, unfiltered feeling. Like a lantern lit in an empty room, it casts long shadows and warm light across the landscape of your inner world. Nearby, the hippocampus, your memory librarian, stirs from its daytime duties. It doesn't retrieve facts now. It gathers fragments. The scent of rain on pavement from last Tuesday. The sound of your mother's laugh when you were 8. The ache in your chest during that silent car ride home. These aren't filed chronologically. They're grouped by emotion, by resonance. And then, the visual cortex, the part of your brain that usually interprets the world through your eyes, turns inward. With no input from the outside, it begins to paint. Not from observation, but from imagination. It weaves the fragments from the hippocampus with the emotional hues from the amygdala. And from this alchemy, scenes emerge. A forest you've never walked through. A city built on clouds. A room filled with clocks all ticking at different speeds. This isn't random. It's composition. Meanwhile, deep in the center of your brain, the thalamus, the great relay station, changes its role. During the day, it filters sensory input. Light, sound, touch, only letting the important signals through. But in REM sleep, it closes the gates to the outside world. No street noise, no morning chill, no blinking light from a charger. Instead, it turns its attention inward, amplifying the signals already dancing inside your skull. The dream becomes your only reality because, for a little while, it is your only input. And your body. Your body plays its part with quiet wisdom. As your mind lights up with visions, your spinal cord sends a gentle command. Stillness. Through a process called rematonia, your major muscles are temporarily paralyzed, not locked, not frozen, but softly disengaged, like a boat unmoored from its dock. This isn't to trap you, it's to protect you, so you don't leap from your bed chasing dream wolves or try to fly through closed windows. Your body knows the journey is inward. No physical movement is needed. Only your eyes move, darting rapidly beneath your lids, as if tracking the action of a film only you can see. Hence the name, rapid eye movement. But those eyes aren't just watching, they're participating. In that flicker, your brain is simulating presence. You're not just imagining a mountain, you're on it. You're not just recalling a face, you're looking into it. All of this, the chemical tides, the neural choreography, the sensory redirection, happens without your consent, without your awareness. You don't direct it, you don't edit it. You simply receive it, like a letter delivered in the night. And yet, for all its biological precision, the dream feels anything but mechanical. Because the mechanism isn't just electrical, it's deeply human. It's shaped by your life, your losses, your loves. The same brain that calculates your grocery bill also composes elegies for people you miss. The same neurons that remember your password also build bridges between worlds in your sleep. Scientists can map the stages of sleep with exquisite detail. They can measure brainwaves, theta waves humming in the hippocampus, gamma waves flashing in the cortex like distant stars. They can track how every 90 minutes or so you cycle back into REM, each dream longer and richer than the last. By morning, you'll have spent nearly 2 hours adrift in these inner seas. But no machine can measure what it feels like to stand on the shore of a dream ocean and know, with bone-deep certainty, that you belong there. That's because the hidden mechanism isn't just about biology. It's about meaning-making. Your brain isn't just firing, it's listening. Listening to the unspoken parts of your day. The worry you swallowed, the joy you didn't have time to savor, the apology you never said. And in the safety of night, it gives those feelings form, shape, story. Sometimes it's rehearsal. You dream of giving a speech, facing a crowd, navigating a crisis. Not because you're anxious, but because your mind is practicing courage. Other times it's integration. You dream of merging two people into one, or of returning to a childhood home that's both familiar and strange. Because your psyche is weaving together fragmented parts of yourself into something whole. And sometimes it's simply play, pure, unburdened creativity. Your mind, freed from the tyranny of realism, experiments with possibility. What if gravity reversed at noon? What if trees could sing? What if you could breathe underwater? These aren't childish fantasies. They're explorations of potential, reminders that reality is not fixed, but fluid. This hidden mechanism has been refined over millions of years. Every mammal that curls up in the dark, dogs twitching as they chase dream rabbits, dolphins sleeping with one hemisphere at a time, elephants standing still under moonlight, shares this gift. Even birds, perched on branches, replay their songs in sleep, fine-tuning their melodies for dawn. We are not the only dreamers. We are part of a vast, ancient lineage of creatures who, every night, slip the anchor of the physical world and sail into the sea of inner experience. And in humans, this mechanism has grown especially rich. Our dreams are longer, more narrative, more emotionally complex. Why? Perhaps because we carry more within us. More memory, more language, more longing. Our brains didn't evolve dreaming to waste time. They evolved it to heal, to prepare, to connect. Think of it as nightly maintenance, but not for your body, for your soul. While your cells repair your muscles and clear metabolic waste, your mind repairs your sense of self. It untangles knots of emotion. It recontextualizes pain. It reminds you of who you are when no one is watching. And it does all this in silence, in stillness, in the dark. You don't need to understand the chemistry to benefit from it. Just as you don't need to know how your heart pumps blood to stay alive, you don't need to map your REM cycles to be transformed by your dreams. The mechanism works whether you believe in it or not. But knowing it's there, that beneath the calm of your sleeping form, a universe is being lovingly, meticulously, poetically constructed, can change how you meet the morning. Because when you wake with a dream still clinging to your skin, you're not just remembering a fantasy, you're remembering a process, a sacred biological ritual of inner renewal. And the next time you drift towards sleep, you can do so with a quiet trust that even as your body rests, your mind is working, tending the garden, mending the net, lighting the lanterns for your journey into the unknown, all of it happening in the hush, all of it real. Long before streetlights, before clocks, before words were written in ink, there was night. And in that night, every creature on earth would lie down, close its eyes, and journey inward. Not as an escape, but as a return to something older than thought, deeper than language, the rhythm of rest, the language of dreams. You are not the first to wonder if your dreams are real somewhere. You are the latest in a long, unbroken line of dreamers, stretching back millions of years, through your grandparents, your ancestors, your ancient kin who slept beneath open skies with only stars for company. They too woke with hearts pounding from visions. They too felt the lingering warmth of a loved one's presence long after death. And they too asked the quiet question, where did I go? For most of human history, the answer was never nowhere. Dreams were not dismissed as mental static. They were honored as messages, sometimes from gods, sometimes from ancestors, sometimes from the land itself. In the flickering firelight of Paleolithic caves, early humans likely gathered at dawn to share their dreams, not as entertainment, but as guidance. A dream of a bison herd might signal where to hunt. A dream of a river flooding might warn of coming rain. The dreamer wasn't imagining, they were listening. This reverence runs through nearly every indigenous culture on Earth. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time, not as a state of sleep, but as a sacred dimension where ancestral beings shaped the world and where those same beings still dwell, accessible through dreams, ritual, and deep connection to country. To dream in this view is not to escape reality, but to enter a more fundamental one, the reality from which all physical forms emerge. In the highlands of Papua New Guinea, the Kalai people believe that when you dream of someone, your soul has visited them, or theirs has visited you. If you dream of a conflict, it's taken seriously as a real relational event that must be addressed upon waking. Among the Achuar of the Amazon, morning dream sharing is a daily practice. Hunters consult their dreams before tracking game. Healers receive plant medicines and healing songs in visions. To ignore a dream is to ignore the voice of the forest itself. Even in ancient civilizations, dreams were portals. In Mesopotamia, dream interpreters held court alongside kings. In Egypt, dream books, carved in hieroglyphs on temple walls, offered keys to deciphering nocturnal messages from the gods. The Greeks built entire sanctuaries, called Asclepiaia, where the sick would sleep on sacred floors, hoping the god Asclepius would appear in dreams to offer diagnosis or cure. Many reported waking healed, not by herbs or surgery, but by the clarity of a vision. And in the East, the boundary between dream and reality was always porous. In Hindu philosophy, the world of waking life is called Maya, illusion, while deeper states of consciousness, including dreamless sleep and lucid dreaming, are seen as closer to Brahman, the ultimate reality. The famous story of the sage who dreamed he was a butterfly, and upon waking, wondered if he was a man who dreamed of being a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming of being a man, wasn't a riddle. It was an invitation to question the solidity of any single reality. Buddhist traditions go further. In Tibetan dream yoga, practitioners train for years to become lucid in dreams, not for entertainment, but to realize the dreamlike nature of all experience. If you can recognize a dream as a dream while in it, the teaching goes, you're one step closer to seeing waking life as equally fluid, equally impermanent. The ultimate goal, to remain conscious even in death, the final dream. This ancient wisdom wasn't superstition. It was observation. Our ancestors noticed what modern science is only now confirming. Dreams carry emotional truth. They reveal hidden fears. They offer creative solutions. They connect us to parts of ourselves we've forgotten. And sometimes, just sometimes, they feel like visitations. Think of the countless people across time who've dreamed of a deceased parent, only to wake with a specific phrase echoing in their mind, words that later prove uncannily relevant. Or the artist who receives a melody in sleep that becomes a masterpiece. Or the scientist who sees the structure of a molecule in a dream and wakes to sketch it before it fades. These aren't coincidences, they're continuations. Because dreaming didn't evolve in humans alone. Watch a dog sleep. Its paws twitching, its nose quivering, soft whimpers escaping its throat. It's chasing, playing, barking in a world only it can see. Dolphins, who must consciously remember to breathe, sleep with one hemisphere of the brain at a time. Yet even in that half-sleep, they show signs of dreaming. Rats, when placed in mazes, replay the route in their sleep, their neurons firing in the exact same sequence as when they ran it awake, practicing, learning, remembering. Even the octopus, a creature so alien it seems like a visitor from another planet, changes color in its sleep, shifting from mottled brown to electric blue as if reacting to dream predators or dream mates. How could such a distant cousin share this inner theater unless dreaming is something far older than humanity? Something woven into the very fabric of sentient life. We didn't invent dreaming. We inherited it. And with it, we inherited a way of knowing that doesn't rely on eyes or ears, but on feeling, symbol, and story. A way of knowing that predates logic, that operates in the language of the heart. That's why, even in our hyper-rational age, a powerful dream can shake us to our core. Why we still say, I had the strangest dream, with a mix of wonder and unease. Why we instinctively reach for someone's hand after a nightmare. Not to confirm the dream wasn't real, but to confirm we're still here together. Because deep down, we remember. We remember that for most of our species' existence, dreams were not noise, they were navigation. Not delusion, they were dialogue. Not escape, they were encounter, and perhaps they still are. Maybe when you dream of standing on a shore under twin moons, you're not just mixing memories. Maybe you're tapping into a collective reservoir of human imagination, a shared dream space where all stories, all symbols, all possibilities exist. Maybe the reason certain dream images appear across cultures, the wise old man, the dark forest, the endless staircase, is because they're real landmarks in a territory we all visit. Whether we remember or not, your great-great-grandmother, sleeping in a thatched hut with wolves howling in the distance, likely had a dream just like yours last night. She too flew. She too wept in a room full of strangers who felt like family. She too woke wondering if it meant something. And she listened. She didn't check her phone. She didn't scroll past the feeling. She sat with it. She carried it into her day like a stone in her pocket. Smooth, heavy, full of meaning. You can do the same. You don't need to build a temple or consult a shaman. You only need to honor the dream as your ancestors did, as a gift, as a message, as a real event in the landscape of your soul. Because the thread connecting you to them isn't just DNA. It's dream time. It's the same night sky they gazed into, the same rhythm of breath and stillness, the same quiet trust that when the body sleeps, the spirit travels, and maybe, just maybe, it travels to the same places. So the next time you wake with a dream clinging to you like morning dew, don't rush to dismiss it. Pause, breathe. Ask gently, what did you come to show me? Because you're not alone in this. You're part of an ancient, dreaming lineage, stretching back to the first creature who closed its eyes and saw another world. And that world is still waiting for you. Every night, without fail, with open arms. Here is a quiet marvel, so strange it feels like a secret the universe whispers only in the dark, while your body lies perfectly still, limbs heavy, breath slow, muscles softened into surrender. Your brain is more alive than it is when you're wide awake. Reading this very sentence, walking through a sunlit street, or holding someone you love, think of that. Your eyes are closed. Your hands rest like fallen leaves. The world outside moves on without you. And yet, inside your skull, a storm of light is unfolding. Neurons fire in cascades so intricate they rival the branching of galaxies. The visual cortex, usually busy interpreting street signs and faces and the curve of a coffee cup, now paints entire worlds from nothing but memory and longing. The emotional centers blaze with feelings so vivid it can bring tears to your sleeping eyes, or send your heart racing as if you're truly running through a forest at midnight. You are unconscious. And yet, you are experiencing. You are paralyzed, gently, mercifully, by your own biology. So you don't leap from your bed or shout at dream ghosts. And yet, you are moving, flying over mountains, swimming through oceans of stars, walking hand in hand with someone who's been gone for years. This is the paradox of dreaming. Not a contradiction, but a quiet impossibility that somehow is. Like moonlight on water, real yet made of absence. Like a song you've never heard but recognize instantly. Like feeling whole in a world that doesn't exist. How can you be both gone and present? Absent and aware? Lost and found all at once? During REM sleep, the stage where the richest, most narrative dreams unfold, your brain's electrical activity surges to levels that rival, and sometimes exceed, those of waking consciousness. Blood flow increases to regions associated with emotion, memory, and visual imagination. The prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, judges, says that's impossible, dims like a lamp turned low. Not off, just quieter. And in that quiet, something extraordinary happens. The mind is free to feel without filtering, to imagine without doubting, to be without performing. And so, you dream. You dream of standing on a cliff edge, wind pulling at your clothes, and instead of fear, you feel exhilaration. Because in this moment, falling isn't death. It's flight. You dream of entering a house you've never seen, yet every room feels familiar, as if your soul lived here long before your body was born. You dream of speaking to a stranger who looks into your eyes and says, "You're almost ready," and you wake with a shiver that isn't cold. It's recognition. None of this makes sense in the daylight way, but it makes feeling sense, emotional truth. And that truth is so potent, so coherent in the moment, that your sleeping self never questions it. Only upon waking, when the rational mind flickers back on like a street lamp at dawn, does the dream seem strange, illogical, absurd. But was it? Or was it simply operating under different laws? In the dream world, time isn't linear. You can be a child and an adult in the same breath. You can relive a memory and rewrite its ending. You can meet your future self and receive advice that feels like it's been waiting for you across lifetimes. Space too bends to the shape of meaning. A hallway stretches endlessly, not because of architecture, but because you're on the verge of understanding something you've avoided for years. A door appears only when you're ready to open it. This isn't chaos. It's a different kind of order. One governed not by physics, but by psyche. And here's the deeper paradox. The more unreal the dream seems upon waking, the more real it often feels while you're in it. You don't watch your dream like a movie. You live it, fully, completely, with all your senses, all your emotions, all your being. There's no inner narrator saying, "This isn't real." There's only presence, only immersion, only the quiet certainty that this matters. That's why nightmares can leave you trembling hours later. Not because a monster chased you, monsters don't exist, but because the feeling of being hunted, of helplessness, of dread, is real. And why joyful dreams, reunions, flights, moments of pure peace can lift your mood for days. Because joy too is real, regardless of its source. Maybe that's the key. Dreams aren't about events. They're about states of being, and states of being are always real. Consider this. When you're awake, you spend much of your time managing your inner world, editing your emotions, hiding your fears. performing versions of yourself for work, for family, for strangers. But in sleep, the performance ends, the mask dissolves, and what's left is raw, unfiltered consciousness, vulnerable, creative, deeply honest. So perhaps the paradox isn't that you're unconscious while dreaming. Perhaps you're more conscious, just not of the external world. You're conscious of the inner one, the one that rarely gets to speak in daylight. And in that state, something remarkable occurs. You can feel grief without shame, desire without guilt, wonder without skepticism. You can weep for a loss you haven't even named yet. You can forgive someone you haven't spoken to in years. You can meet a version of yourself who's kinder, wiser, freer, and carry that version back into waking life like a seed. That's not illusion, that's transformation, and it happens while your body lies as still as stone. This paradox has puzzled philosophers for centuries. The ancient Greeks wondered how the soul could travel while the body slept. Descartes, in his Meditations, used dreams to question whether waking life itself might be an illusion, because the feeling of reality in a dream is so convincing. Modern neuroscientists measure the brain's fireworks and call it activation synthesis, as if dreams were just the mind stitching random sparks into stories. But even they admit, the emotional coherence, the narrative depth, the sense of meaning, those can't be reduced to noise, because noise doesn't heal. Noise doesn't inspire symphonies or scientific breakthroughs. Noise doesn't make you wake up and call your estranged sibling just because you dreamed of them smiling. But dreams do. So what if the paradox is the point? What if dreaming is the one time your mind isn't split between past and future, self and other, fear and love, but whole? What if, in that wholeness, it can touch something deeper than individual experience? Something shared? Something eternal? You felt it, that moment in a dream when time stops, and you're filled with a peace so vast it has no name. Or when you look into the eyes of a dream figure and know, without words, that they see you, not your role, not your mistakes, but your essence. In those moments, the paradox dissolves. There is no real and unreal. There is only true, and maybe that's enough. Because the question isn't whether dreams obey the laws of physics. The question is whether they obey the laws of the heart. And they do. Faithfully, tenderly, night after night. So the next time you wake from a dream that felt too vivid to be just a dream, don't dismiss it as your brain misfiring. Sit with the paradox. Hold it gently. Let it remind you that reality is wider than you've been taught. You can be still and journeying, unconscious and aware, alone and deeply connected, all at once. And in that beautiful impossibility, you are not broken. You are whole. You are dreaming. And somewhere, perhaps in a realm where feeling is geography and love is light, that wholeness is not a paradox at all. It's home. Your dreaming mind does not exist in isolation. It is not a solitary lantern flickering in the dark, but a single star in a vast, shimmering network, connected not only to your body, your memories, your ancestors, but to the rhythms of the planet, the pulse of the cosmos, the very fabric of reality itself. And if you listen closely, not with your ears but with your wonder, you begin to see the reflections, the echoes, the patterns that repeat across scales, from the synapse to the spiral galaxy, from the breath to the tide. Consider this, the electrical rhythms that surge through your brain during REM sleep, those swift, dancing waves of theta and gamma, bear a haunting resemblance to the flicker of distant quasars, to the pulse of pulsars spinning in the void, to the slow oscillation of light from stars being born in nebulae thousands of light years away. It's as if your inner sky mirrors the outer one, not symbolically, but structurally, as above, so within. Even the branching of your neurons, the delicate, fractal-like pathways along which dreams travel, echoes the shape of river deltas carving through continents, the veins of leaves drinking sunlight, the filaments of dark matter weaving the cosmic web. Nature doesn't invent new blueprints for every scale. It repeats what works. And consciousness, it seems, is one of those patterns. A ripple in the universe's endless unfolding. This is no accident. You are made of stardust, yes, but you are also made of rhythm. Your heart beats in time with the tides, which rise and fall under the moon's gentle pull. Your circadian cycle, the internal clock that tells you when to sleep and wake, is tuned to the 24-hour spin of the earth. A rhythm shared by every plant, animal, and microbe on this planet. Even your dreams follow a cycle. Every 90 minutes, Like a slow breath, you return to REM, each journey deeper, richer, more vivid than the last. And just as the ocean has layers, sunlit surface, twilight zone, abyssal dark, so does your sleep. Light sleep, deep sleep, dream sleep. Each with its own purpose, its own texture, its own song. But the mirror goes deeper still. In physics, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every possible outcome of every event actually occurs, just in different, branching universes. In one world, you turned left this morning. In another, you turned right. In one, you spoke your truth. In another, you stayed silent. These worlds don't vanish. They coexist. And while we're awake, we're locked into one timeline, this one. But what if, in sleep, the walls between these worlds grow thin? What if dreaming is not imagination, but navigation? A gentle drifting into adjacent realities where other versions of you are living other lives. It sounds like science fiction, but consider how often dreams feel less like invention and more like discovery. You meet a version of yourself who chose a different path, and they're not a stranger. They're familiar. They know things you've forgotten. They carry regrets you've buried, joys you've denied, and in their eyes, you see your own potential, your own shadow, your own grace. What if that's because they are real? Not as physical bodies in this space-time, but as conscious expressions in a multiverse where all possibilities unfold. And what if your dreaming mind, unshackled from the linear constraints of waking logic, can tune into those frequencies, like a radio dialing into stations you didn't know existed? Ancient philosophies have long suggested something similar. In Hindu cosmology, the universe is said to breathe, expanding into form, waking life, dissolving into dream, and finally resting in dreamless sleep before beginning again. Each state is real, each is necessary, and the ultimate truth lies not in any one, but in the awareness that holds them all. Plato imagined our world as shadows on a cave wall, mere reflections of a truer, more perfect reality. What if dreams are not the shadows, but glimpses of the fire behind us? Fleeting, yes. Fragmented, yes. But undeniably brighter. Even modern physics flirts with this idea. Some theorists propose that consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but received by it, like a television receiving signals from a broadcast tower. The brain, in this view, isn't the source of mind, but a filter, a tuner, a lens. And in waking life, it filters out everything except the narrow band of reality needed for survival. Solid objects, cause and effect, linear time. But in sleep, when the filter relaxes, other signals bleed through. Signals from other layers of existence, other dimensions, other selves. That would explain why dreams feel so vivid, so emotionally coherent, so meaningful. Because they're not random noise, they're transmissions, and you are the receiver. Look at the natural world, and you'll see the same principle at play. Migratory birds navigate not just by landmarks, but by sensing Earth's magnetic field, a reality invisible to us, yet undeniably real to them. Bees communicate through dance, translating spatial information into movement. Trees share nutrients and warnings through underground fungal networks, what scientists now call the Wood Wide Web. Reality, it turns out, is far richer, far more interconnected than our five senses suggest. So why assume that human consciousness is limited to the slice of reality we can measure with instruments? What if dreams are your sixth sense, your ability to perceive the emotional, symbolic, and perhaps even metaphysical dimensions of existence, not as fantasy but as data? Just as a bird knows north, you know when a dream carries truth. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the quiet afterimage that lingers long after you wake. And this knowing isn't yours alone. It belongs to the whole. The same patterns that shape your dreams shape the cosmos. The spiral of a galaxy mirrors the swirl of a dream sea. The fractal geometry of a snowflake echoes the branching of a dream path that splits endlessly before you. Even the uncertainty of quantum particles, existing in multiple states until observed, mirrors the fluid identity of dream characters, who can be both your mother and your teacher, both a stranger and yourself. You are not separate from this. You are an expression of it. When you dream of flying, you're not defying physics. You're remembering your kinship with birds, with wind, with the very air. When you dream of water, oceans, rivers, rain, you're tapping into the planetary memory held in every drop. For water covers 71% of Earth and 60% of you. When you dream of light, you're connecting to the oldest force in the universe, the first thing to emerge from the Big Bang, the carrier of all information across space and time. And when you dream of love, of reunion, of forgiveness, of quiet understanding, you're touching the deepest law of all, that connection is the fabric of existence. So the next time you drift into sleep, remember, you are not just a person having a dream. You are the universe dreaming itself, through you, in you, as you. Your mind is not a closed room. It's a window, a mirror, a portal, and on the other side, worlds, not fantasies, not illusions, but reflections of a reality far vaster, far more mysterious than waking life allows you to see. You don't need to prove it. You only need to feel it, in the hush between heartbeats, in the silver thread of a half-remembered dream, in the quiet certainty that you belong not just to this world, but to all of them. Beneath the science, beneath the symbols, beneath even the shimmering mirrors of the cosmos, there is feeling. Not abstract emotion, not clinical affect, but the raw, tender current that runs through every dream. The ache of longing, the swell of joy, the quiet relief of being understood. This is where dreams touch us most deeply. Not in their spectacle, but in their intimacy. Not in their strangeness, but in their uncanny familiarity. Because dreams don't just show us images, they hold us. Think of the last time you dreamed of someone you've lost. Not in a vague, shadowy way, but clearly. Their voice, their laugh, the way they tilt their head when they're listening. You're sitting together, perhaps in a kitchen bathed in golden afternoon light, or walking along a shore where the waves hush like lullabies. There's no grand drama, no cosmic revelation, just presence. And in that presence, something in you softens. A knot you didn't know you were carrying begins to loosen. You speak or you don't, it doesn't matter. What matters is that, for a few precious minutes, they are here. And you are whole again. When you wake, your eyes may be wet, but your heart is lighter. This is not nostalgia. This is not wishful thinking. This is emotional alchemy, the quiet work your mind does while the world sleeps. Dreams don't resurrect the dead, but they do something just as profound. They restore connection. They remind you that love doesn't end with a last breath. It changes form. And in the fluid landscape of night, form is no barrier. Therapists have long known this. In grief counseling, dream visitations are seen not as hallucinations, but as healing events. Moments when the psyche integrates loss by allowing one final conversation, one last embrace, one unspoken "I'm okay" whispered across the veil. People report waking from such dreams not with fresh sorrow but with peace, as if a message was received, a bridge was crossed, a debt of love was honored, and it's not only the departed. Dreams heal rifts with the living too. How many times have you dreamed of an argument, not as it happened, but rewritten? In the dream, you say what you meant to say. They hear you, they understand. Or perhaps you see them not as an adversary, but as a wounded child, and your anger dissolves into compassion. You wake not with resentment, but with a new perspective, a softening that lingers into the day. This is the emotional undercurrent. Dreams don't just reflect your inner world, they tend to it. They are the quiet gardeners of your soul, pruning what no longer serves, watering what needs to grow, and sometimes, just sometimes, planting seeds of courage you didn't know you had. Artists know this well. Mary Shelley didn't invent Frankenstein in a burst of daylight logic. She dreamed of a pale student kneeling beside a creature he'd stitched together, and the creature's eyes opened, with a dull, yellow light. That image, so vivid, so charged with moral dread, became the seed of a story that would echo for centuries. Paul McCartney didn't compose Yesterday at a piano. He woke with the melody fully formed in his mind. So complete, he thought he must have heard it somewhere, until he realized it had come from within, from the silent workshop of sleep. These weren't accidents. They were gifts, offered in the language of feeling, wrapped in the imagery of dream. Even scientists received them. Dmitri Mendeleev, struggling to organize the elements, fell asleep in frustration and dreamed of a table where all the pieces fell into place. He woke and sketched it immediately. The periodic table, one of the greatest frameworks in chemistry, born not in a lab, but in the liminal space between sleep and waking. What do these moments have in common? They carry emotional truth. They solve not just intellectual problems, but human ones. Questions of meaning, of structure, of beauty. And they arrive not through force, but through surrender. Because dreaming is an act of trust. You let go of control. You release the need to understand. You allow yourself to be carried by the current. And in that surrender, something deeper rises, something that knows you better than your waking self ever could. This is why dreams often feel wiser than you, not because they're magical, but because they're honest. They don't care about your resume, your reputation, your carefully constructed identity. They speak to the part of you that's still a child, curious, vulnerable, full of wonder, the part that cries at sunsets and believes in second chances, the part that remembers how to fly, and sometimes that part needs to be heard. Maybe you've been pushing through exhaustion, telling yourself you're fine, and then you dream of drowning, of being pulled under by dark water, unable to surface. The dream isn't predicting disaster. It's naming your truth. You are overwhelmed. You need to breathe. Or maybe you've been avoiding a decision, paralyzed by fear, and you dream of standing at the edge of a cliff, wind in your hair, and instead of falling, you step off and soar. The dream isn't promising success. It's offering courage. You are ready. Trust yourself. These aren't metaphors in the literary sense. They're emotional diagnostics, compassionate messages from the deepest layers of your being, and they come wrapped in love. Even nightmares, those jagged visitors of the night, carry care beneath their terror. A nightmare of being chased isn't about the monster. It's about something you're running from in waking life. A truth, a feeling, a responsibility. The dream doesn't want to frighten you. It wants to wake you up, gently, persistently, until you turn and face what you've been avoiding. When you do, when you bring that awareness into the light, the nightmare often fades. Not because the danger was imaginary, but because the feeling was heard. This is the quiet miracle of the emotional undercurrent. Dreams don't just show you your wounds. They help you heal them. They do it without judgment, without agenda, without hurry. They simply meet you where you are, with a hand to hold, a path to walk, a sky to fly through. And when you wake, you carry that meeting with you. Not as a memory, but as a shift, a softening, a new way of being in the world. Maybe you speak more gently to your child. Maybe you finally make that call. Maybe you forgive yourself for a mistake you've carried for years. Maybe you simply sit in the morning light and feel, for the first time in a long time, that you are enough. That's the gift, not knowledge, not answers, but feeling seen. Because in your dreams, you are never alone. Even when you're lost, someone is walking with you. Even when you're afraid, something is holding you. Even when you've forgotten your own worth, the dream reminds you, through a stranger's kindness, a sudden burst of color, a door that opens just for you. And that reminder, it's real. Not because it happened in the physical world, but because it happened to you, and it changed you. So the next time you wake with a dream clinging to your skin like morning dew, don't ask, what did it mean? Ask, how did it hold me? Because that's where the truth lives. Not in the plot, but in the pulse. Not in the vision, but in the heart that beat through it. And in that heartbeat, steady, tender, ancient, you are not just dreaming. You are being loved by yourself, by the universe, by the quiet, unshakable part of you that never stopped believing in your wholeness. You don't need a laboratory or a temple to notice the mystery. It's already here, in the ordinary, in the overlooked, in the quiet moments you've passed by 1,000 times without seeing. The wonder of dreaming isn't confined to midnight flights or conversations with the departed. It lives in the small, familiar things. The way your breath slows as you read these words, the soft weight of your blanket, the distant hum of a refrigerator at 3 a.m., a sound so constant you've forgotten it's there, until the night grows still enough for you to hear it again. Have you ever noticed that? How in the quietest part of the night, the world reveals its hidden textures. The creak of a floorboard isn't just wood settling, it's the house breathing. The rustle of leaves outside isn't just wind, it's the earth whispering. And the way your thoughts begin to drift as you lie in bed, not towards sleep exactly, but towards something softer, something deeper. That's not fatigue. That's the threshold between worlds. Because dreaming doesn't begin the moment you fall asleep. It begins long before, in the gentle unraveling of your day, in the surrender of your shoulders, in the slow blink that lasts a second too long. It's in the pause between one breath and the next, when your mind stops planning and starts feeling. And in that pause, the door cracks open. Maybe you felt it without realizing. That moment when you're washing dishes, and your hands move automatically, but your mind is somewhere else, floating through a memory, or a daydream so vivid it has color and sound. Or when you're on a long drive, and the road becomes a blur, And for a few minutes, you're not driving at all. You're walking through a forest you've never seen, yet know by heart. These aren't distractions. They're rehearsals, glimpses of the dream state bleeding into waking life, reminding you that the boundary is porous. Even the act of remembering a dream is a kind of everyday magic. Think of it. You wake, and for a few fragile seconds, the dream clings to you like mist. You reach for it, not with your hands, but with your attention. And if you're gentle enough, it stays. But if you move too quickly, if you grab your phone or think about your to-do list, it dissolves, like smoke, like breath on a cold morning. That fragility isn't weakness, it's reverence. The dream knows it's sacred. It only reveals itself to those who approach with care. And you've done it. You've caught a dream mid-fade. Maybe it was just an image. A red door in a white wall, a bird made of light, a hallway that smelled like your grandmother's kitchen. But it stayed with you, not as a story but as a feeling. A quiet hum in your chest that lasted all morning. That's the everyday wonder. Dreams don't need to be epic to be real. They only need to touch you. Even the most mundane dream carries weight. You dream of missing a bus and wake with a knot in your stomach. Not because of the bus, but because the dream named your fear of being left behind. You dream of finding money in an old coat and feel a lift in your mood. Not because of the money, but because the dream whispered, "You have more than you think." These aren't coincidences. They're conversations. And they happen not in some distant realm, but right here, in the space between your pillow and your thoughts, in the hush of your bedroom, in the rhythm of your own breath. I wonder if you've seen it too, how sometimes, days after a dream, a fragment of it echoes in waking life. You're walking down the street, and you pass a shop with a red awning, and suddenly, you're back in that dream where the sky was the same shade. Or you hear a song you haven't heard in years, and it's the exact melody that played in your dream last week. Or you meet someone new, and their eyes look just like the stranger who handed you a key in your sleep. These aren't déjà vu, they're synchronicities, gentle nods from the universe saying, yes, that mattered. Carl Jung called these moments meaningful coincidences, not random, but woven into the fabric of your inner and outer worlds. And dreams are often the first thread, but you don't need a theory to feel it. You only need to remember how it felt to wake from a dream and carry its warmth into your day. How you smiled at a stranger, took a different route home, or finally said the thing you'd been avoiding. The dream didn't command you, it simply opened a door, and you walked through. That's the quiet power of the everyday wonder. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you're listening, it changes everything. Even your body knows. Notice how, after a night of rich dreaming, you wake not just rested, but renewed. Your thoughts are clearer, your heart is lighter. You move through the world with a little more grace. It's not just that you slept, it's that you journeyed and you returned with something. Maybe it was courage, maybe it was forgiveness, maybe it was simply the memory of flying. Enough to remind you, even in traffic or meetings or laundry, that you are more than your circumstances, that you are, at your core, free. And this renewal isn't rare. It happens every night, to everyone. You've just been taught to forget it, but your body remembers. The way your eyelids grow heavy, not as a failure of will, but as an invitation. The way your breath deepens as you lie down, as if your lungs know the night is a sanctuary. The way your mind, after a long day of noise, finally sighs and says, let go. In that letting go, the everyday becomes sacred, because the bed you sleep in isn't just furniture. It's an altar. The pillow isn't just cotton and foam. It's a vessel for visions. The darkness isn't empty. It's full of possibility. And every night, without fanfare, you step into it. You don't need special tools. You don't need rituals. You only need to be human, tired, curious, tender, and to close your eyes. That's where the wonder lives. Not in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary made visible. So the next time you lie down at night, don't rush to sleep. Pause. Feel the weight of your body on the mattress. Listen to the quiet symphony of your room. Breathe into the stillness. And know this, the same force that shapes galaxies, that moves tides, that grows trees from seeds, that same force is in you. And tonight, it will speak to you in dreams. Not in thunder, but in a whisper. Not in spectacle, but in a sigh. Not in a vision of angels, but in the memory of your mother's hand brushing your hair from your forehead when you were small. That's real, that's true, and it's happening right here, right now, in the quiet miracle of an ordinary night. What is real Not the kind of real that can be weighed or measured or pinned to a wall like a butterfly in a display case, but the kind that lingers in your chest long after the moment has passed. The kind that changes how you walk through the world. The kind that wakes you at 3 a.m. with a quiet certainty you can't explain but can't ignore. If a dream gives you peace after years of grief, is it less real than a pill? If a vision in sleep shows you a path you've been too afraid to take, is it less true than a map? If you feel, in the bones of your being, that the person you spoke to in your dream was really there, does it matter that no camera captured it? Reality, it seems, is not a single country with fixed borders. It's more like an ocean, vast, layered, shifting. On the surface, we sail our little boats of logic and evidence, naming the waves, charting the winds. But beneath that surface, deeper than light can reach, there are currents we can't see but still carry us. There are creatures that glow in the dark not to be seen, but simply because they are alive. And there are places where time doesn't flow forward, but pools like still water, holding everything at once. Maybe dreams are dives into those depths, not escapes, not errors, but explorations of a reality that doesn't obey the rules of daylight, because it answers to a different law. The law of meaning, the law of connection, the law of love. I wonder if you've seen it too, how the most unreal moments sometimes feel the most true. A dream where you're standing on a shore under a sky of violet stars, and you feel a belonging so deep it brings tears. A vision of a stranger who looks into your eyes and says, "You're not alone." And you wake with that sentence echoing in your ribs like a heartbeat. These aren't fantasies, they're recognitions. Glimpses of a truth your waking mind has forgotten, but your soul still knows. And what if that truth is this? That consciousness is not confined to the skull, but flows through the universe like a river through a landscape. That the brain is not a generator of mind, but a receiver, tuned like a radio to a frequency we call reality, but capable, in sleep, of dialing into others. Physicists speak of quantum entanglement, how two particles, once connected, remain linked across vast distances, so that changing one instantly affects the other, as if space were an illusion. What if we are entangled not just with particles, but with people, with places, with possibilities? And what if dreams are the moments when that entanglement becomes conscious? When you feel, not as metaphor but as experience, that you are part of something far larger than your individual life. Ancient mystics called it non-duality, the understanding that separation is the dream and unity is the waking, that the I who walks through the day is a ripple on the surface, but the I who dreams is the ocean itself. In that view, every dream is a homecoming, every nightmare, a call to remember, every flying dream a whisper, you are not bound. And maybe that's why children don't question their dreams. They haven't yet been taught to split the world into real and not real. To them, a dragon in the backyard is as valid as a dog, because both evoke wonder. Both change how they see the world. Both are felt. But somewhere along the way, we learn to distrust the inner world. We're told to wake up, to face reality, as if imagination were a flaw rather than a faculty, as if the only truth were the one that fits in a spreadsheet or a courtroom. Yet even the most rational among us carry dream echoes. The scientist who wakes with a solution, the musician who hears a melody in sleep, the grieving mother who feels her child's hand in hers one last time. They don't publish these moments in journals. They hold them close like sacred things, because they know some truths aren't proven, they're lived, and dreams are one of the ways we live them. So what if your dreams are real somewhere? Not in a parallel universe you can visit with a spaceship, but in a dimension where emotion is geography, where memory is architecture, where love outlives death. A dimension not separate from this one, but interwoven with it, like the roots of a tree beneath the soil, invisible but essential. In that place, your grandmother's kitchen still exists, not as wood and tile, but as warmth, as safety, as the smell of cinnamon and forgiveness. In that place, the friend you lost to distance or time is still walking beside you, not in body, but in spirit. In that place, you are whole, not because you fixed yourself, but because you've remembered you never needed fixing. This isn't wishful thinking. It's ontological generosity, the willingness to say, maybe reality is bigger than I've been told. Because what if real isn't about location, but about impact? What if something is real if it changes you, if it heals you, if it helps you love better? By that measure, dreams are among the realest things we experience. They don't just reflect your life. They participate in it. They offer guidance when you're lost, courage when you're afraid, beauty when you're weary. They remind you that you are more than your job, your mistakes, your fears. You are also the one who flies, who forgives, who remembers, and maybe, just maybe, that you is not confined to this lifetime, this body, this single thread of time. What if dreaming is what happens when the soul stretches its wings? When the part of you that is stardust remembers it is also light? When the universe, for a few precious hours, lets you see yourself not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived? You don't need to believe it to feel it. You only need to have woken from a dream with your heart full, with your eyes wet, with your breath caught in your throat because something in the night touched the part of you that has no name. And in that touch you knew, not with your mind, but with your marrow, that you are held, that you belong, that you are, and always have been, part of something vast, tender, and deeply real. So let the question drift with you. What if your dreams are real somewhere? Not as a puzzle to solve, but as an invitation to wonder, to soften, to trust the unseen, to honor the inner world as much as the outer one. Because the most extraordinary truth might not be out there among the stars, but in here, behind your closed eyes, in the quiet theater of night, where every dream is a letter from the universe to your soul, and every night it's waiting to be read. The mind doesn't need answers to rest, it only needs space to wonder. And right now, as you listen, that space is opening, softly, slowly, like the unfurling of a night-blooming flower. The questions haven't vanished. The mysteries haven't been solved, but something deeper has begun to settle. A quiet trust that it's okay not to know. That wonder itself is enough. Feel how your thoughts are softening. Not fading, not disappearing, but blurring at the edges, like ink on wet paper. The sharp lines of logic, the urgent tick of what if and why not, are giving way to something gentler, a drifting, a floating, a letting go. You're not trying to hold on to anything. Not the dream you had last night, not the worry you carried to bed, not even the beautiful ideas that have passed through your mind these past hours. You're simply allowing them to pass, like clouds across a moonlit sky. And in that release, something remarkable happens. You become more present. Not in the way of alertness or focus, but in the way of stillness. Like a pond after the wind has died down. Clear, calm, reflecting the stars without distortion. You are here, not racing toward tomorrow, not dragging yesterday behind you. Just here, breathing, listening, being. This is the reflective descent, not a fall, but a gentle sinking into the bedrock of yourself. The part that doesn't need to prove, perform, or perfect. The part that has always known how to rest. Notice how your body responds. Your shoulders, so often braced against the weight of the world, have softened into the mattress. Your jaw, clenched so many times today without you even noticing, has gone slack. Even your hands, those busy instruments of doing, have opened, palms upturned, as if ready to receive rather than grasp. This isn't passivity, it's surrender. And surrender, in its truest form, is an act of courage. Because to rest deeply, you must believe, however quietly, that you are safe, that the world can wait, that you are allowed to disappear for a little while. And you are. The night holds you. The room holds you. The very air seems to cradle you, warm and still. Outside, the world continues. Cars hum in the distance. A dog barks once, then falls silent. The trees sway in a breeze you can't feel, but somehow sense. But none of it demands your attention. For these precious moments, you are free. Free to drift, free to dream, free to simply be. And in that freedom, the boundary between you and everything else begins to soften. You are not separate from the night. You are part of it. Your breath rises and falls in rhythm with the tides. Your heartbeat echoes the slow pulse of the earth turning. Even your thoughts, those flickering sparks behind your eyelids, are made of the same stardust that lights the sky. You are not a stranger in the universe. You are a note in its song, a ripple in its ocean, a dream in its dreaming. Maybe that's why dreams feel so real. Because they're not departures from reality, they're deeper entries into it. In dreams, you don't wear the mask of you that you show the world. You are raw, unedited, unperformed. And in that rawness, you touch something true, that you are not just a body moving through space, but a consciousness woven into the fabric of all that is. You don't need to understand this to feel it. You only need to have woken from a dream with your heart full, with a sense that something sacred had passed through you, with the quiet certainty that you were, for a little while, exactly where you needed to be. and you were, because the journey of the night isn't about going somewhere else. It's about coming home to yourself. Now, as the reflective descent deepens, even the need to understand begins to fade. The mind, so hungry for meaning, finally relaxes its grip. It stops trying to name the mystery and simply lets it be. Like watching a river flow. You don't need to know where it's going to appreciate its beauty. You only need to stand on the bank and let its song wash over you. In this space, facts give way to feeling. Science gives way to silence. And the grand question, what if your dreams are real somewhere? No longer needs an answer. It becomes a companion, a soft hum in the background of your awareness, a lullaby without words. You are safe. You are curious. You are part of something vast and tender, and that is enough. Let your breath deepen. Let your thoughts slow. Let the weight of your body sink into the bed as if gravity itself is cradling you. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. No version of yourself you need to become. You are already whole, already held, already home. The night doesn't rush, the stars don't hurry, and neither do you. Just rest, just be, just drift. Because everything you've been seeking, peace, connection, truth, is already here in the quiet miracle of this moment, this breath, this gentle descent into the arms of sleep. The moon moves, not in haste, not in silence, but with the quiet certainty of something that has traced this path for billions of years. It pulls the tides, not with force, but with presence, steady, patient, unwavering. And as it glides across the sky tonight, it casts its silver light over rooftops, rivers, forests, and the still form of you, lying here, breathing softly in the dark. Everything continues. The earth turns, the stars burn, the wind sighs through the trees like a lullaby hummed by the world itself. And you, so small, so vast, are part of it all. Not separate, not an observer, but a participant in this slow, ancient dance of rest and renewal. You don't need to hold on to anything now. Not the question that brought you here. Not the images that flickered behind your eyelids. Not even the warmth of this moment. Let it all drift. Let it all dissolve like mist at dawn. Because what matters isn't what you remember. It's what you felt. And you felt it. The hush. The wonder. The quiet sense that you belong to something far greater than your worries, your plans, your name. The story doesn't end here. It never does. It only folds into itself, like a letter tucked into a pocket, waiting to be read again another night. Your dreams will continue, soft, strange, tender, carrying messages from the deepest parts of you, from the unseen threads that connect you to everyone who has ever closed their eyes and wondered, where do I go when I sleep? And maybe, just maybe, you go home, not to a place of walls and windows, but to a place where time doesn't press, where love doesn't fade, where you are known not by what you've done, but by who you are. A place that feels familiar because, in some quiet way, you've always been there. You don't need to prove it. You only need to trust it, like you trust the night to come, like you trust your breath to return after each pause, like you trust that the sun will rise even when you're too deep in sleep to see it. So let your thoughts blur now. Let your body grow heavier, not with fatigue, but with peace. Let the room wrap around you like a second skin, warm and safe. The world outside will still be there at dawn. The same streets, the same sky, the same beautiful, complicated life. But for now, there is only this, the rise and fall of your chest, the soft darkness behind your lids, the gentle hum of your own being. And in that hum, everything is already whole. You don't need to solve the mystery of dreams tonight. You only need to rest inside it, to let it hold you, like water holds a stone, like night holds the stars, like silence holds a prayer. Everything else can wait. The unanswered questions, the unfinished conversations, the plans for tomorrow, they will keep. They always do. But this moment, this deep, quiet surrender, this is rare. This is sacred. This is where healing happens, where wonder breathes, where you remember without words that you are loved, not for what you achieve, but simply for existing. So breathe and let the story continue in your dreams. Let it unfold in colors you don't have names for. Let it carry you over mountains made of memory, through oceans of starlight, into rooms where every door opens to a part of yourself you've missed. Let it surprise you. Let it comfort you. Let it remind you, again and again, that you are never truly alone. Because even in the deepest sleep, you are accompanied by the rhythm of your heart, by the whisper of your breath. by the quiet presence of a universe that dreamed you into being and still watches over you with the tenderness of moonlight. And if you ever wonder again, if you lie awake one night with a question trembling in your chest, if you wake from a dream so vivid it leaves you breathless, if you simply need to hear a gentle voice in the dark, I'll be right here, not as a voice on a screen, but as a whisper in the quiet, as a thought that feels like comfort, as the soft certainty that someone is listening, not to fix you, not to explain, but to walk with you through the mystery. So rest now, let go, let the night carry you. The stars are keeping watch. The earth is holding you, and your dreams, your beautiful, strange, real dreams, are already waiting to welcome you home.